Hey, it worked! Hello and welcome! Welcome back to another video. Working on the K24 FRS again. And today we're gonna install a secondary fuel pump because one's not enough. So why do I need a secondary fuel pump? Because once you go E85 or start engine swapping these cars or turbocharging them to where they require more fuel, they have bad fuel starvation on left-hand corners. This usually happens when the fuel tank gets down to like half a tank and lower. You're going around the left-hand corner and all the fuel slots to one side, starving the fuel pump. And it makes the car go into like a limp mode, run like shit, kills your lap times, and we can't have that. This can also happen on cars with factory engines with not swapped or NA. So if you're running E85, it's more fun to do it. If you're running turbochargers, even if you're running like sticky tires like a Hoosier and pulling a lot of G's around a corner, it can cause it as well. Now this isn't a complete fix, it's more of a cheap band-aid. Here are some of the things that I have when we do mine. This is my old fuel pump. Since I replaced mine not too long ago, I put a E85 higher flow fuel pump in mine. This is what I took out. Need some fuel hose. Has to be rated for fuel since this is going inside the tank. And some clamps. So not much. Some other stuff you might need is like some sort of clamp to clamp the fuel pump to the sending unit. And stuff to do wiring. Some wires, some crimps and stuff like that. I'll also add a link down in the description of another fuel pump alternative if you don't have a fuel pump laying around. And if you want more details and more description, Sloth BRZ made a pretty good video on this subject. And honestly, that's where I got most of my information. So big shout out to him for doing all the hard work. I was already planning on doing this here soon, before my next track day of this thing. He just made my life a little bit easier by showing me how he did it. And before you start this, I would drive the car and get the fuel tank as low as you can. That way a little bit less fuel you have to deal with, less likely to splash out of the tank, because we are going to have to dig into it. Last time I was on the driver's side of the tank. This time we're going on the passenger side of the tank. So you want to gain access to your fuel cover, that one over there. So you have to take your back seat out. This side has the main fuel pump. We shouldn't have to go into it for this project, but you're all going to have to go into that one. But before we do that, make sure you got good ventilation. So I'm going to have to open my doors up, maybe get a fan, because I don't want to get high like I did last time. Definitely going to want some gloves for this and some flatheads to pry off this panel, because underneath here is like some black tar. Sticky stuff, it's just nasty and gets all over the place and kind of sucks to deal with, to be honest. So let's pry this off. I got the cap off, got this unplugged. Now I gotta take this off and note the arrows here. Point to this line, there's like an arrow down there. It's kind of hard to see from here, but there's 3 lines. And make sure those line up when you put this back on. So let's take this off. It's a lot easier if you have one of these tools. I didn't have it last time, so last time I just used a hammer and a screwdriver and just knocked it loose, but this should make it a lot easier. Okay, this is the passenger side sending unit. Was pretty easy to get out, no problem at all. It's actually a lot easier than the fuel pump side. Just to make sure not to bend up this wad in the process. Now the idea is to attach your fuel pump to this, the secondary one, and this line goes to the other side. It goes to the basket on the fuel pump side. So you're going to disconnect this line, hook it up to your new fuel pump, and it's going to pump fuel from this side of the tank to the other side where the actual fuel pump is. It pumps the fuel into the basket. I would show you, but I don't feel like taking that thing back out. But I'll show you some pictures or something. Okay, I got the sending unit off onto the table. All you have to do is disconnect that little fuel line. Pretty easy. So the idea is I'm going to mount this pump to the side of it and use like one of these clamps to attach it so it doesn't go anywhere. It's not flopping around inside the fuel tank. I got the pump strapped onto the unit. Make sure it's not interfering with anything. It's just hanging on for dear life. Once that's on and secure and you feel like it's not going to go anywhere, just add you a little bit of fuel line. You don't need a whole lot. So if you have a piece of scrap would work. And put it on your fuel pump. Just leave a little bit of slack. That way you can adapt this to the fuel line that's already in that side of the tank. Okay, next thing on the agenda is to wire it. There's these two wires. I'm going to have to drill a hole in the top of this. That way the wires have a way to go through. And once I do that, I'm going to have to seal it. Use some RTV or something. Put it on top of it. That way fuel doesn't leak out of it. Okay, I got the pump wired in, and before I seal it up, I'm gonna test it. So I'm gonna attach my leads to my battery, make sure the pump comes on. That way I know my wiring is right. Hey, it worked. Okay, I got the top sealed up. I use this epoxy because it's super fast drying. It dries in like 5 minutes. So that way I can go ahead and put it in the core. But once it's in there in the core, I'm probably going to double it up and put some gasket maple on top of it as well. Just to extra insurance, I guess, so it doesn't leak. But let's dump this back in the tank. Okay, I'm back in the car, got my gloves back on. This line here that had the filter on it, took the filter off. And this is going to hook up to this little stubby line here. I get this line hooked up, screwed in, super simple. Now this can go back in. When this goes in, make sure that this line doesn't interfere with your little float arm. If it does, you're going to get bad readings on your gauge up there somewhere. Okay, I got my cap screwed on, good and tight. Got my bolts lined up. I got my wires threaded through this little grommet on the lid. Now I just have to plug this back in and put my lid back on. And I'll be done with this portion, almost. Hey, my cover's on. I do plan on putting 2 screws on the edge like I did on this one to help hold that down, because the only thing that's holding that down is that black gooey tall stuff, and I hit it. But I'll do that in a little bit. Next thing on the agenda is to finish up the wiring. I'm probably going to follow along this additional wiring and go up the center console. And the idea is to put it on a switch so you can manually turn it on and off, because this isn't something you're going to need running all the time, only when you're on track and you really need it. So the idea is to put on a little toggle switch. Going to have to find a 12 volt power, a constant power, and a ground and a switch. So that's really up to you on where you put that. I know some people will use the cigarette lighter as a constant power. You can put a switch there, or I already have switches over there in my little cubby, so I'll probably just add another switch.
A few moments later.
Okay, I got wired. You see I'm following this cable going underneath the center console. Have it grounded out on a bolt. Then I have the positive wire going to that far right switch. And from the switch, I have it going back to the cigarette lighter to draw power. I did test it out. It does work. This light comes on, so I know if this light's on, the fuel pump's on. Got the center console all back together, and let's test it out. Keys on. I don't hear it, which is kind of hard to hear it over the main fuel pump. Hit the switch. Light is on. I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's just a slight hum. It's not super loud. Even though the switch is up in that cubby, you can see the red light in the reflection of the plastic. Normally if I'm on the track, I also use my pedal dance, which is this far left switch. Activation traction off, stability off. So I can see it's on, and I can see my fuel pump's on. I used to have the ABS switch on though, but I never use that switch. I never turn my ABS off. I shouldn't have to. So I just got rid of that switch. Everything's off. It's good to go. So that was pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You know, didn't take me very long to do. You know, as long as you're comfortable with a little bit of wiring and stuff, shouldn't be an issue. Which that's kind of up to you on how you run the wiring. Or if you decide to put a bigger pump in, it might help more. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to really test this out soon. I think my next event with this car is in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 3 weekends away. So it's going to be a while until I'm able to test it out and see if it really works. It's not something I'm going to find out on the street. Shouldn't be going that fast on the street to figure it out. But like I said, this isn't a 100% fix. It's more like a patch, a band-aid to the issue. In order to fix it, you're going to have to spend a lot of money, like on a storage tank or something, and do a lot more work in order to really fix it. but it should give me a few more laps in before I have to top it back off or add more fuel, which I time attack this car and normally I only need a few laps anyway, so a few extra laps will make a big difference. Also, results will vary depending on your setup and how much fuel you're using. If you have a big turbo car making a lot of horsepower and you're requiring a lot of fuel, I'm sure this isn't going to help as much because you're needing a crap ton more fuel than what I'm running. The next event for this car is Good Life at Heartland Park in Kansas, Topeka, I believe. So I will get to test it out there, and hopefully she doesn't let me down. But until then, hope you enjoyed this video, hope you got something out of it. Special thanks to Sloth BRZ for the info and for doing a lot of the legwork. And enjoy this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you next time. Peace.